I ate a carnivore diet for a year and this is what happened. Hi there, I'm Sue. Welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. So I have been on the carnivore diet now for 1 year. My carniversary was on the 31st of May. So I started it on the 31st of May 2022. Now, when I first started, I jumped on in, decided I was going to do this whole hog, stopped all my supplements, stopped everything, dived in and was just doing animal products. And then I started having a lot of issues with diarrhea. So I'd already had years of diarrhea, but it got way worse. And I had about 9 months or so of really bad diarrhea before it resolved. And now I don't hardly ever have diarrhea at all, which is a miracle. So that's one of the things that have resolved since I have been on the carnivore diet. So, and that in itself is an absolute blessing. The IBS diarrhea had been a thing for me most of my adult life, and it had just kind of got worse and worse and worse. And it had kind of got to the point, because I had the IBS diarrhea and anxiety, and they were tied together, so I'd get anxious about needing to go to the toilet, and so that would make me want to go to the toilet. So it was kind of like this two-way thing, which I've talked about quite a bit in my previous videos, and so that was the thing that was really affecting my life the most in the end. And the other thing that kind of went with that too, that I haven't really talked about, was that I had realised that it felt like I had, I wasn't going to be able to control my bowel. And I noticed when I was working, because I'm a massage, I do massage and I do other body work, mostly a therapy that's been originated here in New Zealand called contact care flinch lock release. So I'm working one-on-one with clients all day in my work, and a lot of the time they're really quiet. Quite often people go to sleep, and so I have a lot of time thinking and kind of paying attention to what's going on in my body. And what I noticed was that I got to a point where I was always aware of my bowel. It sounds weird, but there was always a feeling there, and it was kind of disconcerting, I guess, or it just kept it in the forefront and kind of triggered the anxiety side of things. It's really hard to explain, but what I've realized since the diarrhea is all settled down, it's like I now have kind of realized that, I don't know how to put this, but I've realized that there was something going on that had affected the nerves in that area. I'm picking it was oxalates, because oxalates can affect lots of things, including the nerves and nervous system in different areas of the body. So it almost felt like, I don't know how to explain this. It's like my bowel and that area had almost not paralyzed, because I could feel things there and I could feel pain, because I used to wake up sometimes at night time with pain that was like a really dull toothache kind of pain, right down low. And the first time it happened, I was really worried. I thought, oh, maybe I've got cancer or something, it was quite disconcerting. And it was usually at night time in bed that I'd get it, and it would wake me up. But I think that the oxalates, I'm pretty sure that's what was going on, was that the oxalates were doing something to the nerves in that part of my body, and that has resolved. I feel like when I go to the toilet now, I feel like it feels normal, and that I have feeling there, and that I have control. and I know what's going to happen, because that was the thing with before, was I lost the ability to know whether I needed to go to the toilet, whether it was just gas, whatever. Too much information for some people probably, but too bad. If you don't like it, don't watch. But these things have got to be talked about, because I know that there will be other people going through similar things and like me, don't know how to explain it, because it's kind of something that you start to realize there's something that's not right, but you're kind of not sure what it is. And so, yeah, so it's like the diarrhea stopped, so I stopped getting diarrhea all the time, which was just amazing. And then just gradually, the feeling in that area has become normal again. So I know if I need to go to the toilet or not, and I know if it's just gas, which you don't get much gas on Carnivore anyway, but I know if it is, but before I didn't. So that's a biggie. That's a big thing. As I said, I don't know what was going on. My suspicion is that it was to do with oxalates, because another problem that I was having was vulvodynia, and I'd been having that for at least a couple of years before I started on Carnivore, off and on, and that was why I knew before I started on Carnivore that I was having problems with oxalates. And so I'd been testing it, you know, I'd eat different foods. Beetroot, for example, was a big one for me that would really kind of set it off, and then it would go away again, and then it would flare up. And so now, a year into Carnivore, I'm still getting that when I'm oxalate dumping. So obviously, different people, the oxalates obviously go to different parts of their bodies, and so for me, that's obviously an area, and I suspect that's what was going on with my bowel as well, was that there was something going on there with the oxalates. So that part is resolved, to do with the diarrhea and everything. The vulvodynia is off and on, depending on whether I'm oxalate dumping or not. I'm not consuming any oxalate now, apart from a bit of black pepper. And so what I find now is that my bladder gets irritated when I'm oxalate dumping. I still get nosebleeds sometimes when I'm oxalate dumping. My skin will get really crappy, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was 6 months ago. So getting better. So I created a list of things that were going on for me before I started on Carnivore, you know, when I started on Carnivore. And I'm glad I did, because a lot of these things I would have forgotten about, and that's why I created it. So this video might be a little bit long, but I want to go through some of the stuff and tell you what's changed, because I know, like, I post on Twitter quite a lot, and I'm sort of developing a bit of a following on there. And there's a lot of people who are on vegan diets and things who they don't believe that the Carnivore diet is a good way to go. And I have some interesting discussions on there with people who are convinced that all us carnivores are going to die of heart attacks. But the things that are happening in my body would indicate otherwise. So some of the things that were going on for me before I started Carnivore is I was having dizzy spells almost every day where I felt like I was going to pass out. I was having at night time, my heart would really pound in bed at night, and that felt like I was going to have a heart attack. That was really worrying me, because I'd go to bed at night time and my heart would be just going bang, bang, bang in my chest, and it would make it hard to get to sleep. I was having problems sleeping as well, getting to sleep and staying asleep. So the heart pounding doesn't really happen anymore. I can feel it sometimes still if I lie on my right side, so when my heart is up but it's not, it's just the noise of it, but it's not the boom 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 in my chest. So so that's definitely changed. I was having my blood pressure, I was having problems with my blood pressure. My blood pressure had historically been low, and so was my resting heart rate. So I had a few years when we were in Australia where my resting heart rate would be 45 beats a minute, because my thyroid was just all over the place. And then, since we've been back in New Zealand, my heart rate was going up, up, up. My blood pressure, just get my computer screen going again so I can see. The systolic reading, the top one was going up, and the diastolic reading was going down. I think they've got them the right way around. I get confused with them sometimes. So they were separating, and so when I looked that up to find out what was happening there, was that the bottom reading meant that there wasn't enough blood getting back to my heart. So I suspect that's why I was having the dizzy spells, and why maybe the heart pounding thing at night time as well. I think it was kind of probably all interplaying there, and so that has normalized. My resting heart rate had gone up to, it was quite often 85 beats a minute, between 80 and 85, which is too high, and I knew it was too high and I wasn't happy with that. So now my blood pressure is back to normal. It sits around 113 over 70, 115 over 70, and my resting heart rate is usually between 65 and 70, which is pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. So what else was I having? I was having problems with my the sun burning my face really bad. The last 2 years before I went carnivore, in the summer, I couldn't spend any more than a few minutes in the sun. My face would just end up scarlet and really burnt, and that has gone. This summer I tested it out. We didn't have a whole lot of sun this summer. We had lots of rain, but I did test it out when I did get out in the sun, and I could be out in the sun for an hour, and my face I'd get patchy bits that would burn. I suspect it was to do with oxalates again, because oxalates can cause your skin to burn, apparently. I saw that in some of Sally Norton's work somewhere. And so I'm figuring that's what was going on there. And so that's not happening now. So, because my face would burn and the rest of me wouldn't. So it was a bit weird. But I've spent years out in the sun all the time in Australia. Never had that problem before. So the sunburn, so what else did I have problems with? My glucose levels were, I bought a blood glucose monitor a couple of years ago to keep an eye out on our blood glucose, because we don't go to doctors, and so I prefer to just check things myself. So hubby's parents were both diabetics, and in my family I've got a sibling who's diabetic, and my grandmother was diabetic, and I think I've been fairly close when I was younger, to be honest. And my blood glucose was sitting up most of the time over 7, which isn't a good place to be. Now it sits around usually between 5.4 and 5.6, even after I've eaten. I can measure a couple of hours after I've eaten, and it's most of the time it's around 5.6, sometimes 5.9, but not too drastic. I'd still like it to come lower, but it's way better, and I'm pretty happy with where it is a year into this carnivore diet. So the anxiety and stuff has settled quite a lot too, because my bowel has settled. It's still there, and I don't know if it'll ever completely go. I'm taking CBD. I don't know whether the CBD is making a difference or not. I don't know whether this is just part of my personality or what. I've always kind of had a bit of social discomfort even as a kid, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. It might change as time goes on. Nosebleeds. I was getting nosebleeds every day before carnivore. I went for quite a lot of months without any, and then they started coming back again, not every day. But what I realized was that it's always this side, and it'll come on sometimes when I start dumping oxalates, and I'm picking that's the nosebleeds are something to do with the oxalates as well. So nasal congestion used to be a real problem. It's still a problem sometimes, but nothing like it was. It used to be just blocked up all the time. Gum disease. So I still have problems with my gums. My gums are receding. They are less inflamed. So I was getting a lot of tooth pain, and I'd been to the dentist to have my amalgam fillings replaced. And I thought that I had cavities, but he said, no, you don't have cavities. It's just the gums that are making your teeth sore. So I don't often get any tooth pain now. I did a lot for a few weeks when I first started on carnivore, but that's really common. But the gums, my gums aren't resolving. They're just less inflamed. And I think that's, sometimes they'll flare up. And I think that, again, is to do with oxalate dumping, because I'll get a big buildup of calculus on my front teeth, and my gums will get inflamed, and then that all settles down and it goes away again for a little while. And I think it's to do with oxalates, because I've seen other people talking about that. I used to get a lot of tendon pain in my feet in particular. I've had patches over the years where it's been really bad. I don't get that anymore. And joint pain in my hands and my fingers. I was often, my joints would feel restricted and quite sore, and they'd be sore to touch. Don't really get that anymore. Occasionally a little bit, which again might be to do with oxalates, I'm not really sure. My wrists, I was having a lot of problems with my wrists, especially when I'm working, if I'm doing massage. My wrists still get a bit sore when I'm massaging, and I have a tendonitis issue in this wrist that has been a lot better, but it'll still come and go. Sometimes it's flared up again this last week or so, and again I'm not sure whether that's to do with oxalates or whether it's just needs more time to heal. I don't know. My shoulders, I was having massive problems with my shoulders for the last few years, and couldn't get any help with them, different practitioners and that working on them, couldn't get anything to sort out. They are so much better, so much better. I think because I'm stronger, my body has put on muscle without really doing very much to make that happen. It's just eating the meat has created more muscle, and I'm so much stronger. And I think that whatever was going on in my shoulders with the tendons and the muscles and everything is just, I think, less inflammation. It's just gradually resolving, and they are just way better than what they were. Still have the occasional problems with them because I'm doing yoga, and sometimes I'll upset them a little bit, but it's really temporary, and yeah, they're like 95% better than what they were. So I used to get regular lower back pain and pain across the bottom of my ribs. That was really common for me. I still get a little bit of back pain sometimes, depending what I've been doing. If I've been exercising, it'll play up sometimes. And sometimes with work, massaging, it'll get a bit sore and achy. I think oxalate dumping sometimes, because when you're dumping oxalates, your body gets acidy. And so there's generally more inflammation and a bit more pain. So I think it kind of goes, I'll go through patches with really out any pain, which is a miracle for me, because I always had some kind of pain going on in my body. It kind of ebbs and flows, but I have a lot of time now where my body feels really good. Same with my neck tightness and stuff like that. So the other things that I had keratosis, I don't know how to pronounce them, the rough sun patches, skin damage on the backs of my hands. And this hand here, this right one, had quite a big patch here that I was always picking at. That patch resolved within the first month on Carnivore. And my hands are pretty good most of the time. I get a couple of little tiny patches that'll come and go that are still a bit rough, but nothing much. Some dark patches on my skin, which is still there. I've got a lipoma in my belly, which is still there. My glands used to always be swollen, often, and that doesn't happen anymore. My feet swelling, my left foot in particular. I still have a little bit of puffiness on that left foot, but it was injured about 30 odd years ago. I'm hoping that one day that might resolve with the diet. I don't know whether it will or not, but my feet aren't swelling. The only times I've had problems with them swelling was when I was drinking licorice tea. That was an interesting story. And if I don't have enough salt, sometimes they'll swell when the weather's hot or whatever. So I just make sure I get enough salt into me and I'm fine. What else? Sleeping so much better most of the time. I don't have to get up to pee all the time during the night now. I usually, most of the time, get through till at least 5 o'clock in the morning without having to go. So that's pretty cool. Also, my whole sleeping pattern changed when I started on Carnivore, which was interesting, because the 7 years that we'd been back in New Zealand, we've been back just about 8 years now. So it was probably 6.5 years when I started on Carnivore. It felt like my sleeping pattern was out of whack. Like I couldn't get myself to go to bed early and wake up early. I was always wanting to go to bed 11:30 and wake up at 8. You know, it was, whereas I used to always be early to bed and early to rise, and I kept trying to get myself back there, and it just felt like I was still in Queensland time. nearly 7 years later. So, but then as soon as I went on to Carnivore, that all changed, and I started going to bed early, started waking up early, and I need less. I need less sleep. I don't need this. I go through stages where I need more, but a lot of the time I need less sleep. I can get by on six or 7 hours, which is great, whereas it always used to be at least 8 hours. My cognitive function and my memory are improving. My ability to take in information, to remember it, to understand it has improved. I was aware that that was changing, and that problem has reversed. So that's seriously cool, seriously cool. My motivation levels are improving. I actually feel like exercising a bit more now, so which is awesome. I have some issues with my eyes. One of them is posterior vitreous detachment, or PVD, which means that the gel's pulling away from the backs of your eyes. Apparently it's fairly common as you get older. What happens is you start noticing at night time that you see in the dark when you're asleep. If you wake up, you'll see like flashes in your eyes, and it's the wrinkles in the gel. I don't know if that's improved really at this stage. I'm hoping that it will, but it is still there. My lack of flexibility in my ankles and my hips and everything, I think that that's slowly improving a little bit. And I used to have a lot of trouble with neuralgia, like in random areas of my body, sore skin. My skin would just be sore to touch, my back skin would be sore to touch. That's happening a lot less. It still happens. Sometimes my husband will go to touch my back and my skin's just sore, So there's a lot that's resolved and resolving. There's still a lot to go, but I'm only a year in. I'm really happy with the changes that I've had on Carnivore. I'm hoping that my weight will keep shifting, because that's a biggie for me too, as I really want to get rid of some weight. I'm too heavy, but I'm down 3 kilos in the last 2 or 3 weeks, which is pretty cool. So that gives me hope that the next 12 months there might be some decent change there, especially if I stick with my sardines. So yeah, that's where I'm at, 12 months into my Carnivore journey. If you've got any questions or comments, fire away below. And if you've had similar experiences or different experiences, let me know as well in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and found it interesting, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share this with anyone who you think might be interested. And I thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you again another day. Okay, bye for now.